What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you my first impressions of Mass Effect 3. Now, I have recently played through the first and second title via the Legendary Edition, and we are now making our way to the third game, after which I will, of course, be reviewing it as well. And then afterwards, I'll have a couple other videos talking about the series as a whole, and then ranking the companions and how I felt about them. But that said, this is my first time actually playing through Mass Effect 3. And so far, it's been a very interesting journey, and I'm curious to see how everything ends. Now that said, despite this being my first time actually playing the game, this is one of those series that it's very hard not to have heard things about, as I'm quite aware that the endings are apparently quite terrible. But beyond that, the rest of it is pretty unfamiliar to me. Now, in that regard, the story actually picks up 6 months after the end of Mass Effect 2, and we find ourselves on Earth for one reason or another. As if you played the Arrival DLC in Mass Effect 2, the reason you're here is because you killed an entire colony of Batarians, destroying a relay to stop the Reapers, and if you didn't do that, you're here because you were also working with Cerberus, which also makes sense. And I mention that because it kind of works both ways. Now, I did want to mention here for a first impressions thing. In Mass Effect 2, you could essentially re-roll your imported character, and it made sense because your character dies at the beginning of Mass Effect 2, and you're sort of reborn via the Lazarus Project. So there's a narrative reason for you to be re-rolling your class, etc. Whereas in Mass Effect 3, they're just like, do it because it's convenient. And that's also fine. I'm glad they put it there, to be honest. I just thought it was funny that this time around there was no narrative excuse for that at all. But regardless of why we're on Earth, the story picks up right as the Reapers are finally beginning their full-scale invasion, which, thanks to the actions of Commander Shepard up to this point, has been greatly delayed, but the moment is finally here. And after witnessing some pretty heart-wrenching destruction on planet Earth, we have to take control of the Normandy and go rally the galaxy as it begins to fight off the Reapers. A couple thoughts on this for first impressions is that I like how they've approached this, actually. We know from the previous games that the previous cycles of Reaper eradication, if you will, have not been quick. It is a process. It often takes time. Most civilizations fight back. They are just unsuccessful. So it does kind of make sense that you would have time to do this, but obviously people are dying every second, and a lot of what they do is put you in the middle of the action and kind of show the death and carnage being wrought by the Reapers all around you as you progress through the game, and I thought that part was pretty cool. Now, it's also pretty apparent that the game is definitely trying to wrap up plot lines. You are constantly running into characters that you've met before and kind of seeing where they are now, and sort of the end of their arc, of course, as it's the end of the trilogy. I want to mention all this, though, because the game has made a very clear switch to being almost an action movie. Mass Effect 2 took out a lot of the RPG elements and kind of leaned towards that more character-driven story, which honestly, I think as a whole, because of that specific direction, as opposed to trying to do two different things, Mass Effect 2 was better for it. And as a result, Mass Effect 3 has decided to focus in even more and kind of improve on Mass Effect 2's system. So I don't think that's a bad thing per se, but they're clearly not really trying to be an RPG at this point, but rather more so an action game. Because outside of the choices, that's really all there is. We don't see ourselves exploring or anything. It's basically just action mission to action mission. And the only place you can really explore a little bit is the Citadel, and that's primarily to just turn in quests to. And they've gotten rid of the more tedious stuff like the mini games for hacking and lockpicking, that type of stuff. And then they also completely overhauled the scanning the galaxy system in what is probably the easiest iteration of it so far. You basically just scan a big radius around your ship as you fly through a galaxy, and it lets you know if you find anything, but this will attract Reapers, and if you get caught by the Reapers, it's game over. But that's just an instant reload into the galaxy you were just in, so that's not really a big deal. And it's pretty clear to me they were just like, this is the experience we want people to have, and it's going to be a huge emphasis on the action portion of stuff. Now, the other half of that is the combat. For once, I'm actually enjoying the combat. It's actually pretty good. The combat in Mass Effect 1 was just bad. In Mass Effect 2, it was largely okay. It was more just an obstacle in between doing the more interesting stuff like learning about characters and helping them out. Whereas in Mass Effect 3, I'm finally having fun engaging with the combat. especially with all of the new abilities they've added. The Vanguard, which is what I've been playing primarily as we go through this, got their big Nova ability, and that has been a blast to finally be able to do something really cool like that. And every class has kind of gotten a big ability in that way, and it's been a lot of fun as a result. But to wrap this up and save some things for the review, my main first impressions for Mass Effect 3 are that I'm enjoying it so far, but it's a very clear shift towards just straight up being an action game. However, in some ways that's good because now, finally, the combat's actually fun. And while it's been interesting to see the evolution of the series as we play through the 3 games, gameplay-wise, I would say Mass Effect 3 is probably the best in that regard. However, as someone who has a fondness for more methodical choice and consequence style games, I was a little sad to see it go, but I will say that the experience as a whole is better for the focus direction, which is something I said of Mass Effect 2, and it would appear that Mass Effect 3 has chosen to build on that and continue in that direction. But that, guys, is pretty much my first impressions of Mass Effect 3. I'm looking forward to playing through this one and giving a proper review and then doing thoughts on the series as a whole as well as the companions. I'm looking forward to doing that one in particular. But by all means, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Just remember, I haven't actually played through this yet, so please don't spoil anything major. Regardless of all that, like, comment, subscribe. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you again. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.